The galaxy was wide, endless, and filled with lights, but most of those lights belonged to lazy and proud empires that thought they ruled forever. They laughed in their palaces, they traded in their markets, and they never looked too deep into the dark corners of space. They believed peace was eternal and nothing could break their power. But the galaxy was sleeping, and in its sleep it failed to see what was really happening. For while alien kings and councils wasted their years, humanity was busy, humanity was quiet, and humanity was preparing. Humans did not forget the insults, the humiliations, and the chains once placed upon them. Many empires had called humans weak farmers, simple traders, and nothing more than a child race. The words cut deep, and in silence humanity swore they would never kneel again. In the far reaches of forgotten sectors, hidden behind dead stars and drifting asteroid belts, humanity built in secret. They dug into rocks, hollowed moons, and stripped entire planets for resources. Giant factories ran without pause, filling the void with metal beams so big they looked like mountains floating in space. Engines the size of continents were assembled in shadows, and humans told no one. No spy dared to look too close, for humanity had sealed these places with clever tricks, false signals, and storms of energy that blinded scanners. To the outside, it looked like empty space. To those inside, it was the beating heart of a secret dream. Centuries passed and the galaxy kept sleeping. Every empire grew slower, every ruler grew fatter, every fleet commander grew proud and careless. No one thought about the humans. They were left to their small blue world and their scattered colonies. But in the silence between stars, humanity built something that no one had ever dared. One night, in the darkness of the outer rim, a small alien scouting ship passed through a forgotten route. The crew was bored, laughing about how pointless their mission was. But then their laughter stopped. The pilot froze. The navigator gasped, and their sensors screamed with warnings. In front of them was a shadow so large that it blocked half the stars. It was not a planet, for no planet had metal veins glowing faintly across its surface. It was not a station, for no station could be that vast. It was something else, something impossible. The alien captain whispered that it must be an illusion, a trick of the scanners. But as their ship drifted closer, they saw movement, engines the size of oceans slowly turning, plates of steel sliding into place like giant shields. The shadow shifted and the crew realized with terror that it was alive. It was moving. Panic filled the scout ship. The crew begged to turn back, to send a message to the council. But the captain hesitated. Who would believe them? Who would listen? Humans were weak. Everyone knew that. And yet here, in the darkness, humans had built something beyond all reason. The scouting ship tried to retreat, but for a moment the shadow stirred, and a beam of faint light followed them. No shot was fired. No chase began. The humans had seen them, but they had let them go. The crew escaped with shaking hands and wide eyes, but when they reached their empire and told their story, the lords only laughed. They said the scouts had been drunk, or maybe too long in deep space had broken their minds. The report was thrown aside and the council continued its banquets, but in the hidden shipyards the humans smiled. The scouts had seen only one of many. The galaxy still slept, blind and arrogant, and humanity's secret was safe. The work continued. Every hammer strike echoed in the void. Every engine test shook the asteroids, and every silent oath carried the same promise. Humans would rise. They would not rise with words, but with machines so vast that even stars would bow before them. And so, while the galaxy slept, humanity kept building, planet-sized warships in secret, their steel hearts beating, waiting for the moment the galaxy finally opened its eyes, and by then, it would already be too late. In the hidden corners of space, far from the eyes of alien empires, humanity worked. Like shadows in the dark, they were patient, careful, and silent. The galaxy mocked them as weak, but in secret, they were building a force the galaxy had never seen. The construction sites were spread across asteroid belts, hollowed moons, and forgotten planets. What looked like barren rock from the outside hid enormous caverns where factories thundered day and night. Deep inside these caverns, rivers of molten metal flowed, machines larger than cities, shaped steel plates wider than mountains, and drones swarmed like insects, each drone carrying sparks of fire as it welded the skeleton of a new warship. Entire worlds were transformed into shipyards, deserts turned into landing fields, oceans frozen into testing grounds. The work never stopped. Generation after generation grew up inside these secret colonies. Children were born under artificial skies. Their lullabies were the hammering of machines, and they grew with only one purpose: to finish the task. The leaders of humanity called it the Silent Project, and only a few truly knew its scale. Governments pretended to argue in public, showing weakness to the galaxy. But in secret, they all fed resources into the project. Each colony sent its share of ore. Each worker gave their strength. It was not the dream of one nation. It was the dream of all humanity. Sometimes whispers escaped. A trader would see too many freighters heading toward a dead system. A smuggler would swear he saw fire inside an empty asteroid, but no proof ever survived. The humans erased every trail. They paid no attention to the laughs of aliens, for every insult only added more fire to their will. Inside one of the shipyards, the first of the great warships took shape. Its body was so massive it looked like a small world. Its armor was thicker than mountains. Its engines carved ripples in space when they tested. When workers looked at it, they did not see a ship. They saw a new planet, built by human hands, not by nature. A single admiral stood inside its hollow command hall, his voice echoing across empty decks that stretched for miles. "When this awakens, the galaxy will never call us weak again," he said. The workers listened and pride filled their tired bones. But the galaxy was still blind. Councils of aliens sat in their shining cities, drinking, laughing, trading. No one believed humans were capable of anything more than small ships and fragile fleets. They thought humans were farmers, miners, merchants, but never warriors. Yet in the outer rim, a young alien smuggler had seen something that changed him. Forever, his name was Caro. His ship had drifted too close to a forbidden zone. He saw a shape moving through the dark, bigger than any moon he had ever mapped. Lights crawled across its surface like glowing rivers, and then it vanished into the shadows. He returned to his people, shouting of a moving world made of steel. But they laughed at him. They called him drunk. They told him humans could never build such things, but Caro could not forget. His eyes had seen the truth, and his nightmares were filled with the image of that steel planet turning slowly, waiting. Meanwhile, inside the shipyards, humanity's ambition grew. One warship was not enough. 10 warships were not enough. They dreamed of fleets of them, planet ships that could surround a star. Fleets so large that alien navies would collapse from fear before a single shot was fired. Billions of humans worked without rest, each life a small stone in a giant wall, and none complained. For they all remembered the history of chains, the insults carved into their pride, the colonies stolen, the blood spilled. Humans never forgot. Every night, the engineers looked at the half-finished behemoths and felt awe. Every dawn, the workers pushed harder. Every heartbeat of the project whispered the same vow: never again would humanity kneel. In the void, the first completed warship began to stir. Its engines glowed like newborn suns. Its metal skin reflected distant starlight. And when it moved, even the nearby asteroids seemed to shiver. The admiral smiled as he watched, knowing that the galaxy was still asleep, mocking humans, laughing at them. But soon that laughter would turn into silence. For while the galaxy slept, humanity had already built the weapons of its awakening. Warships the size of planets, hidden in the dark, waiting for the day the galaxy finally opened its eyes. In the deep black of space where no empire dared to wander, a single ship stirred for the first time. It was not a ship in the way the galaxy understood. It was too vast, too powerful, too impossible. It was a planet dressed in steel, and its heart was human. For centuries, the workers had dreamed of this moment. Their fathers and mothers had died building it. Their children had grown inside its hollow halls. Their songs echoed in the steel bones, and now at last, the first of humanity's giants was alive. Its engines rumbled with a sound that could shake stars. Its armor shone like a second moon. Its shadow swallowed entire fleets before they even approached. Inside the colossal bridge, Admiral Ryan stood tall. He was not young. his hair silver, his face carved with years of sacrifice, but his eyes burned with a fire that no alien had ever understood. He looked across the endless command deck, where rows of officers stood in silence, their uniforms sharp, their hearts pounding, and he whispered, "They will never see us coming." Outside, the galaxy still slept. Alien councils argued over trade disputes. Nobles laughed in their feasts. Pirates preyed on weak convoys, and all of them ignored humanity. For to them, humans were still the child race, noisy, desperate, but never dangerous. But rumors had started to slip through the cracks in one system. Miners swore they saw a second moon drifting where no moon should be. In another, a pirate crew spoke of a beam of light that cut a battleship in half before they could fire, across the galaxy. Strange reports whispered of moving shadows, new stars that appeared for a week and then vanished. No one could explain them. At the High Council of the Sarathi Empire, the most arrogant of the alien powers, the nobles laughed at these reports. They called them ghost tales, drunken ramblings. They dismissed the idea that humans, weak little humans, could build anything larger than a freighter. Only one voice spoke with fear, an old historian with eyes like fading suns. He raised his claw and warned, "The humans move quietly. They always prepare. When they are silent, beware." But the council only mocked him. Back in the void, the first warship stretched its engines, and the test shook entire sectors. Comets were thrown off course. Radiation storms flared like angry stars. Nearby colonies shivered as their skies flickered. They thought it was natural, but it was not. It was the heartbeat of a warship, the size of a world. The ship was named Oblivion, though no alien would ever know its true name. Its weapons were silent, hidden beneath plates of steel mountains. But when a single cannon was tested, the blast ripped a hole through an uninhabited moon, splitting it into shards. Even the crew, hardened and trained, stood in awe. They realized they were no longer serving a fleet. They were serving a god of war built by human hands. But humanity kept the silence. No broadcasts, no threats, no warnings. They let the galaxy laugh. They let the galaxy sleep. All while their first creation prepared for the day it would step out of the shadows. Meanwhile, in the outer rim, the alien smuggler Kiro could not sleep. His mind replayed the night he had seen the impossible. A moving world glowing with rivers of fire. He begged his people to listen. He offered to guide them, but no one believed him. He was called a fool, a liar, a drunk. Yet deep in his heart, Kiro knew the truth. He had looked into the eye of something that should not exist, and it was human. Admiral Rian stood at the window of Oblivion, watching the stars. His officers awaited orders, his engineers awaited the next test, but he said nothing. Only his thoughts roared. "We will rise when they least expect us, and when we rise, the galaxy will tremble." Silence filled the halls, but it was not the silence of weakness. It was the silence of a predator waiting to strike. The galaxy was still blind, still arrogant, still mocking, and so it remained asleep. But a shadow now moved in the dark, a shadow so large it could eclipse suns, humanity's first warship, alive, hungry, and patient. And so, while the galaxy slept, the first awakening began. A silent tremor, a whisper before the storm. The beginning of a secret that would soon shake every empire to its knees. The council chamber of the Sarathi Empire gleamed with crystal walls and golden pillars. Alien nobles sat in long robes, their voices filled with pride. They spoke of trade profits, of border disputes, of their endless power, and not once did they speak of humanity with fear. To them, humans were still nothing, farmers, miners, simple creatures who borrowed ships instead of building real ones. When a scout rushed in with a trembling voice holding reports of strange shadows moving across the rim, the nobles only laughed. One sneered, "Perhaps the humans are making toy ships to amuse themselves." Another chuckled, "They can barely hold colonies, how can they build war machines?" Their voices echoed with arrogance. But in the corner of the chamber sat the old historian, his eyes burning with something the others had long forgotten, memory. He raised his claw and spoke slowly. "The humans are not like us. When they suffer, they do not forget. When they fall, they rise again. They hide their strength until it is ready. You laugh now, but when they show their hand, it will be too late." The chamber roared with mockery. The historian was called senile, paranoid, unworthy of the council. Yet even as they laughed, far beyond their shining towers, the galaxy was whispering. In trade routes, pilots spoke of stars blinking out as something vast blocked the light. Miners swore entire asteroid fields vanished overnight. Pirates whispered of a single beam of light that vaporized fleets. These stories spread like smoke, ignored by rulers, but believed by those who had seen too much. Meanwhile, deep in the hidden shipyards, humanity worked without pause. The first warship was complete, but others were already rising. Skeletons of steel worlds stretched across black space, glowing with fire from endless welding drones. Some were still half-formed, their cores exposed like the beating hearts of giants. Others already had engines, the size of continents waiting to be tested. Humanity's silence was not weakness. It was thunder waiting behind the clouds. On Oblivion, Admiral Ryan received the intercepted alien broadcast. His officers chuckled as they heard the laughter of the council. But Ryan did not laugh. His face was cold. "Let them laugh," he said. "It is easier to strike when your enemy is blind." His words carried across the deck, and every officer felt the weight of destiny in their bones. Far away, the smuggler Kiro sat in a dirty tavern, his voice hoarse as he repeated his tale. It was no planet. It moved. It breathed fire. It was human. The other aliens mocked him, throwing coins at his feet. "Tell us again, fool, of the drunk stars you saw." He clenched his fists. His people refused to believe. But the fear in his eyes was real. He had seen the truth. As months passed, more rumors reached the empires. A mining station at the edge of a dead system went dark. Rescue ships found only silence, its entire core drilled out with precision, as if stolen by gods. A pirate lord swore he saw a moving fortress consume an entire convoy of ore haulers. Yet when questioned, he fell silent, too shaken to speak. Still the councils mocked. Still, the empires ignored. Still the galaxy slept. Back in the hidden zones, humanity prepared the next step, testing weapons never before imagined. A cannon that bent light, firing a beam across millions of kilometers, slicing moons apart like fruit. Missiles guided by artificial minds that hunted their targets without mercy. Shields that shimmered like oceans and could withstand the fire of 1,000 fleets. Each test was more terrifying than the last, and yet no one outside the project knew. One engineer looked at the rising fleet and whispered, "We are building gods." Another replied, "No, we are building justice." And their words became the quiet anthem of the workers. Admiral Ryan walked alone through the massive halls of Oblivion. Its corridors stretched like cities. Its hangars could swallow whole fleets, and yet it was only one of many. He thought of the galaxy, mocking, blind, drunk with arrogance, and he smiled. The longer they laugh, the sweeter their silence will be. The galaxy did laugh, in courts, in councils, in markets. They told jokes about humans trying to build ships out of wood. They ridiculed the idea that a young race could ever threaten the old powers. They dismissed every whisper of danger, every warning, every survivor's tale. But beyond their shining cities, in the darkness where their eyes did not dare to look, the war drums of humanity were already beating, not with sound, but with the silent rumble of engines larger than worlds. The galaxy laughed, but the laughter would not last, for soon the shadows would move again. And when they did, the galaxy would remember what it had forgotten. Humans never stayed weak forever. A pirate fleet drifted in the shadows of the outer rim, dozens of ships with scarred hulls and stolen banners. Their leaders laughed as they planned their next raid. The humans had colonies nearby, weak settlements with little protection. Easy prey, they thought. They were drunk on arrogance, the same arrogance the great empires carried. Their scanners picked up a faint energy signal, something massive but silent, hidden beyond a belt of shattered asteroids. The pirate lord grinned. "Treasure," he growled. "An abandoned station, maybe a secret vault." His fleet moved in, hungry for plunder, but as they passed the asteroids, the stars disappeared, one by one until only blackness surrounded them. The pirates looked at their screens in confusion. The sensors screamed with errors. The shadows moved, not like rocks, not like planets, but like something alive. Then they saw it. a surface of steel stretching endlessly, glowing rivers of light flowing across it like veins. It was no station, no planet. It was something their minds refused to accept. The pirate lord shouted to retreat, but it was too late. The surface stirred, plates of metal shifted, and from the silence came a single light, a cannon awakening. For one moment it glowed like a sun, and then it fired. The blast did not roar. It simply erased the lead pirate ship turned into dust. Then the next, then a dozen more. The fleet shattered in seconds. Survivors screamed into their comms. It is a world, a moving world of fire. Run. Some ships fled into hyperspace. Others scattered, broken and terrified. The survivors carried their stories back to the galaxy, telling of a planet that moved. Like a ship. A machine that destroyed fleets with one shot. The empires heard these stories and they laughed again. Councils called it superstition. Governors mocked it as pirate fear. They said no such weapon could exist, not by human hands. Yet in the corners of their eyes there was doubt, for the reports grew too many to ignore. At the secret shipyards, Admiral Ryan received the data of the pirate encounter. His officers stood silent, waiting for his judgment. "They saw us," one said nervously. Ryan only nodded. "Good," he replied. "Let them whisper. Let them spread fear. The galaxy will laugh until it cannot laugh anymore." His voice was calm, but behind his eyes burned the fire of war. More warships were waking, half-built giants stirring in the void. Some shaped like mountains turned upside down, others like seashells, glowing with hidden energy. Each one larger than the last, each one armed with weapons that no alien had ever dreamed of. Humanity had not built one monster. They had built many. Meanwhile, Cairo, the smuggler who had first seen the shadows, now walked the streets of alien cities, shouting his warnings. "I saw them, I swear it. World ships of steel, human ships." Crowds gathered to mock him. Children threw stones. Merchants spat at his feet. Yet even as they laughed, a few began to wonder. For rumors had grown too loud. In one sector, an entire convoy vanished. In another, traders spoke of stars blinking out, covered by something too vast to measure. Still, the councils dismissed it. Human tricks, they said. Human lies. But their fleets began to quietly increase. Patrols near human borders. Back in the hidden depths of space, the workers watched their creations rise. Children grew up drawing pictures of planet ships. Workers sang songs of steel and fire. To them, this was not just war. This was destiny. Every ship was a promise. Every engine test a warning to the universe. The veil that hid humanity's secret was cracking. Too many eyes had glimpsed the shadows, too many whispers carried through the stars. But humanity did not fear discovery. They welcomed it, because every whisper carried fear, and fear was the first victory. On Oblivion's vast bridge, Admiral Ryan stared into the dark. The laughter of the galaxy still echoed through the intercepted broadcasts, but he no longer cared. "They think us weak, they think us children," he murmured. "Let them think so until the day they see us standing over their broken fleets." His words were sharp, heavy, and the officers around him felt their blood quicken. The galaxy still slept, but its dreams were turning uneasy. Shadows crept at the edge of vision. Whispers of moving planets, rumors of vanishing fleets. The veil was breaking, and behind it stood humanity, ready, waiting, smiling in silence. Their first strike did not begin with a roar. It began with silence deep in the forgotten sectors where no empire dared to look. Oblivion moved like a drifting world, its shadow swallowing the stars. Behind it followed two more giants, still untested but awake, their engines glowing faintly. Together they formed a fleet of worlds, hidden and patient. The target was chosen. Long ago, the Korath Dominion, an empire that had once enslaved human colonies, they had beaten humans, mocked them, called them animals that only knew how to crawl. The Dominion still kept human worlds under chains, forcing children into mines and using men as cannon fodder. Humanity never forgot. Humanity never forgave. Admiral Ryan stood at the heart of Oblivion's bridge, his voice low but steady. "Tonight we rise not with words, not with promises, but with fire." His officers saluted, their faces pale but proud. They knew what this moment meant. The Dominion fleet was vast by its own measure. Hundreds of battleships, cruisers, carriers, all orbiting a rich mining world filled with enslaved humans. The Dominion commander watched the skies lazily, certain no threat would ever come after all. Who would dare attack the Dominion? Then the stars went dark. At first, the Dominion officers thought it was an eclipse. Then they realized the truth. Something enormous had blotted out their sun, a shadow so massive that it stretched across the entire horizon. Panic rippled through the fleet as scanners failed to measure the size of the intruder. The Dominion. Commander barked orders. Identify it, but his crew could not. The readings made no sense. It is moving, sir. It is the size of a planet. Their voices cracked. The shadow stirred. Lights ran like rivers across its steel skin. Then its weapons woke. A single cannon opened fire, one beam of white light brighter than a star, cut across space in a heartbeat. 20 Dominion ships vanished, turned into ash and silence. The shockwave rattled even distant moons. The commander screamed to retreat, but it was too late. Missiles rained from the planet ship like falling stars, each one carrying the firepower of entire fleets. Ships exploded one after another, their formations shattered. For the first time in history, an alien fleet saw the true power of humanity. Amid the chaos, the enslaved humans on the mining world looked up from their chains. They saw the sky split by light. They saw the Dominion warships burning, and they cheered, tears on their faces. They whispered to one another, "Our people have returned." Inside the Dominion capital, the High Council listened in disbelief as reports came through. "A moving planet has destroyed our fleet." One officer cried. The councilors shouted at him, called him a liar, until the transmissions cut through, live feeds of oblivion floating like a god in the sky. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion felt fear. Back on Oblivion, Admiral Ryan watched the battle end. The Dominion fleet scattered, their defenses broken. "Cease fire," he ordered, his voice calm. "We have made our point." His officers hesitated. They wanted to finish the enemy, but Ryan shook his head. "No. Let them crawl back to their masters. Let them tell the galaxy what they saw." The message spread faster than any fleet, faster than any trade convoy. Across every empire came the whispers. The humans have built planets of steel. The humans have returned with weapons that devour fleets. Rulers laughed less now. Some still mocked, but their voices shook. Others began to quietly prepare their defenses, for they knew if the whispers were true, no empire was safe. Kiro, the smuggler, sat in a crowded hall, listening as merchants and captains argued. Some still said it was lies. Others claimed they saw the fires themselves. Kiro only smiled bitterly. "I warned you," he muttered, "and now the galaxy will pay for not listening." The humans did not boast, did not broadcast their victory. They vanished back into the dark, their planet ships retreating into silence. But the memory remained. Entire fleets gone in moments. A world of steel moving with purpose. Humanity had shown only a fraction of its power, and that was enough to shake the galaxy awake. In the hidden shipyards, more giants rose, dozens now, their cores blazing, their weapons tested. The workers whispered proudly, "The first strike is done. The galaxy knows we are not weak. The galaxy knows we have returned." But Admiral Ryan knew this was only the beginning. He stood at the vast window watching another planet ship awaken, its engines flaring like suns. "This is not conquest," he whispered. "This is a warning. We will not kneel. Not again. Not ever." His voice was carried across the bridge, and every soul felt it in their bones. The galaxy trembled, not because of what humanity had done, but because of what it knew humanity could do next. The galaxy was no longer quiet. Whispers raced faster than light. Rumors burned through every station, every colony, every council chamber. The story was always the same. A moving world of steel, a single shot that erased fleets, humans behind it all. The galaxy wanted to deny it, but fear had already taken root. In the Sarathi council chamber, once filled with laughter, silence now ruled. Nobles whispered nervously, showing each other grainy images captured by fleeing Dominion ships. massive shapes blotting out stars, glowing rivers of light across endless metal surfaces. The Sarathi Emperor slammed his claw on the table. Impossible, no human could build such things. Yet his voice shook, and the chamber smelled of fear. Across the stars, other empires argued. Some demanded immediate war against humanity. Others whispered, caution. But all were too late, for humanity had chosen this moment to step from the shadows. From deep space came a transmission, not a cry, not a threat, but a voice, calm, steady, human. It echoed across every channel, into every empire. While the galaxy slept, we prepared. While you mocked us, we built. We will never kneel again. The voice did not roar, but it carried the weight of thunder. Then the images came, fleets of planet ships moving as one, their silhouettes blotting out suns, their engines glowing like newborn stars. They did not hide now. They revealed themselves, each ship larger than the last, some shaped like mountains, others like coiled rings of steel, all alive, all awake. Alien rulers stared in horror, their advisors frozen, their people whispering in markets and taverns. The humans, they were weak, but now they are gods. In pirate dens, smugglers swore never to cross human borders again. In slave markets, alien traders suddenly grew nervous selling human bodies. Even the lowest alien worker felt it. The galaxy had changed forever. On Oblivion's bridge, Admiral Rian stood before a vast display, showing transmissions pouring in from across the galaxy. Some messages were filled with threats, others with desperate offers of peace. Ryan said nothing. He only looked at his officers. They know now, he murmured. The era of laughter is over. Meanwhile, the enslaved human colonies rejoiced. In the mines, chains were thrown aside. Overseers fled as workers shouted to the skies, "We are free." Across alien-controlled worlds, human prisoners raised their heads high for the first time in generations, their hearts beating with pride. But not every empire was silent. In the Krell Dominion, fleets gathered, their commanders furious. "If the humans rise, all our empires fall," one shouted. "We must unite before it is too late." In their arrogance, they thought unity could stop what was coming. But already their fleets trembled at the thought of facing moving planets armed with suns. The smuggler Kiro watched from a crowded plaza as the human broadcast played on giant screens. Tears filled his alien eyes, not from fear but from awe. "They did it," he whispered. "They really did it." Once mocked as a drunk fool, now he was vindicated. The truth was undeniable. In the hidden shipyards, the workers cheered as their creation finally revealed itself. For generations they had lived in silence, building with tired hands, keeping secrets even from their own children. Now they watched the images of planet ships filling the skies, and pride filled their souls. "We are no longer shadows," one worker whispered. "We are the storm." Admiral Ryan addressed his fleet, his voice calm but heavy with destiny. "We do not seek to rule. We do not seek to conquer. We seek freedom, and we will defend it with fire. The galaxy will understand that humans are no longer prey." His words carried through the steel halls, through the hearts of every crew member. The galaxy trembled, not just from fear but from the realization of how blind it had been. For centuries it mocked humans, ignored them, enslaved them. And all the while, humans were building giants in silence, preparing for this day. Across the void, the fleets of human planet ships spread like a storm, not attacking, not conquering, only showing themselves. Their presence alone was war. Their silence alone was a warning. And so the great reveal was complete. The galaxy was awake now, fully awake, staring into the eyes of a new power that had risen from the shadows. Humanity stood tall, fleets of worlds behind them, unbroken, unafraid. But in the deepest corners of space, far beyond the reach of human sensors, something else stirred. An ancient race older than the galaxy itself opened its eyes. It had slept through the rise and fall of empires, but the awakening of humanity had reached it, and its attention was now fixed on mankind. The galaxy trembled, and for the first time it was not only from fear of what humanity had become, but of what humanity had awakened. The galaxy no longer laughed. The laughter had died, replaced by silence, fear, and whispers that spread through every corner of space. Once proud empires held meetings in panic. Fleets scrambled, rulers shouted at their advisors, yet all of them knew deep inside. Nothing they had could stand against what they had seen. Humanity had revealed its warships, planets of steel moving with the will of mankind, and no empire dared to breathe without glancing toward the human border. But even as the galaxy trembled, humanity did not strike. Their fleets did not march on alien capitals. Their planet ships did not fire upon cities. They waited in the dark, silent and still, and that silence was worse than any war because it left the galaxy to imagine what might come next. On Oblivion's vast bridge, Admiral Rian looked out at the endless sea of stars. Behind him stood other admirals, each commanding a planet ship of their own. Their faces carried the same calm fire. Rian spoke, his voice low. "We have shown them the truth. But make no mistake, fear can turn to desperation. The empires will gather. They will unite. They will try to destroy us before we grow stronger." The officers nodded, but none felt fear. They knew what stood at their backs. Already reports came in of alien alliances forming. Enemies who once hated each other now swore to join forces against humanity. Councils that once mocked humans now declared them the greatest threat to the galaxy. Fleets were being raised in numbers never seen before, but still, they all whispered the same question. How many planet ships do the humans have? And no one had the answer. In the streets of alien worlds, fear and awe mixed. Children played pretending to be human admirals commanding giant ships. Traders hesitated to cheat human merchants. Even slave markets began to crumble as buyers feared human retribution. Humanity had not fired another shot, yet already the galaxy was changing. But in the deep dark beyond the known stars, something else stirred. Something older than the oldest. Empires, older than the councils, older even than the galaxies that thought themselves eternal. It had slept through ages, watching silently. And when humanity awakened its planet ships, its eyes opened. Distant sensors picked up faint signals. Strange, gravitational tremors, shifts in the void that no natural star could make. And though most dismissed them as anomalies, humanity's admirals saw the signs. Rian stood in the strategy hall, holograms of alien fleets flickering around him. But his gaze was fixed not on them, but on the faint signals coming from beyond. "We have awakened more than fear," he murmured. "We have awakened something else." His officers exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen the data too. Back on alien worlds, the panic grew. Some shouted for peace with humans, others for war, but deep in their hearts they knew it no longer mattered. They were no longer the masters of the galaxy. They were children standing before giants. The smuggler Kiro, once mocked and beaten for his warnings, now found himself surrounded by crowds begging him to retell his story. "What did you see?" they asked. "How did it look?" Kiro's voice trembled. "I saw a world of fire and steel, and it moved, it breathed, it watched us." He paused. "And there are more, many more." The crowd shuddered. In the hidden shipyards, workers completed even greater warships, their cores glowing, their weapons tested. Ships larger than even Oblivion began to rise. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. It was preparing for something greater, something beyond the galaxy's comprehension. And yet humanity did not march, did not conquer. Their message remained the same, repeated across every channel. "We do not seek to rule, but we will never kneel." The words echoed, heavy, simple, unbreakable. Alien fleets massed near human borders, but none dared to cross. Commanders stared at their scanners, hands trembling over controls, waiting for the shadow of a planet ship to appear. None came, and the waiting drove them mad. In his private chamber, Admiral Rian stood before the window, his eyes locked on the endless black beyond. He knew the galaxy feared humanity, but he also knew the true test was still coming. "The empires will break themselves against us," he whispered, "but the ancient thing that stirs in the dark, that will be our true war." His words were quiet, yet they carried the weight of prophecy. The galaxy trembled, not only from the fear of what humanity had already done, but from the shadow of what humanity might yet face. Humans had risen from chains, from humiliation, from silence, and built gods of war with their own hands. Now they stood between a trembling galaxy and something far older awakening in the void. The galaxy held its breath, waiting, watching, knowing that the storm had only begun. Humanity had stepped into the light, unbroken, unafraid, and for the first time the galaxy realized it was not humanity that should fear the future. It was the galaxy itself,